This is Fain with Sanctuary Bath. We are continuing our vinyl plank, our luxury vinyl plank LVP project, and this customer wanted vinyl plank on the stairs, on the steps, and so we're installing the steps right now. And for those of you who want to try and go it yourself and do the install yourself, there's some tips and tricks and tactics and techniques that I can show you that will be really helpful to make it look really professional. And so in this instance, they've got a white riser. And come on down here with me. What the standard operating procedure for steps, for laminate and vinyl plank flooring, is that you cut off this bullnose. So this bullnose comes out about 1.5 inches, and they put it like that so you have a wider tread. So you know, when you're walking on it, you have plenty to step on. But when you install a laminate or vinyl plank, they tell you got to cut this off. And the reason that you have to cut it off is so this bullnose, which you can see, it's only about 1 inch deep. That bull nose section is 1 inch deep, whereas this is 1.1 inches thick. And so if you were to install the bull nose over a bull nose, you can see right down here, well, you can't really see, but it doesn't quite cover the bull nose there. So you literally have to cut this off, this bull nose off, in order to install vinyl plank or laminate floor, and you lose 1 inch of tread. What I've done is created a system where I literally keep the bull nose and then run my riser up at a little bit of an angle. As you can see, you can't really tell it's at an angle, but it allows you to have that full 11-inch tread. So you're not shortening your tread. It'll feel strange for a while if you cut this if you lose 1 inch of tread. And so this is a really nice way. It'll cut down your time immensely because you don't have to take a skill saw and cut all of those and then come back with a reciprocating saw and cut off the ends. It's a real mess. It's really loud. It's really annoying. And this way it makes it a lot quicker, a lot easier. The only way you can do it is if you have a vinyl plank or laminate piece that's at least 8 inches wide, because you'd run it up from here. So if you've got 4-inch plank, it's not going to work. Or a white riser like this. And so we've got 9-inch planks, and I picked up some material for a white riser, so really easy to work with. And we're going to go ahead and do it this way. So,
what was the material you got for the white riser? It's like almost like a melamine kind of type deal, or
kind of. I'm not.
Some mini ones there.
Yeah. So this material, I asked the customer, and they wanted to go as simple as possible. Didn't want to have to paint it if they didn't have to. And so this material, you can see, is about 1/8 of an inch thick. It comes in sheets that are about 7 feet by 3 feet. And so these steps are about 36 inches, and this material comes in about 36.25. So you have to, so it's almost perfect. So you cut it off the height you need, and then you'll generally have to cut off about 1/4 of an inch on the edge, and then your riser.
Now let's talk about this little bottom piece here too. You have this funky, you have a bit of the flooring, offset there.
So the thing about steps, which is contrary to a standard installation of either laminate or vinyl plank, is that when you install vinyl plank or laminate floor, it snaps together. It's free floating, so you don't want to glue it down anywhere. But when it comes to steps, you don't want anything free floating.
Right, because that's going to slop out from.
Yeah, it's just going to make for a really hectic living situation, sliding around on your steps. But because it's such a small area, you don't have to worry about expansion and contraction like you do with 100, 200, 500, 700 square feet of vinyl plank. And that's why you have to have a gap around the edge all the way around. And so I had to have this gap here, which is about 1/4 inch. This is only about 1/8 inch, so it's half the size of my gap. And I couldn't eliminate the gap here because I needed to have that 1/4 inch. And so I finished off the vinyl plank about 1/4 of an inch away from the riser, and then I installed this quarter inch piece just right at the bottom, and that will help push my let's see, that'll help push my riser out enough so that it covers the gap there. Yep. Okay. And on these, you put the riser in first and then tight fit the tread here, and then you drop the bullnose over the top. And so, anything else we need to know about the philosophy of stair installation, or do we want to go ahead and start installing?
Let's just dive into it.
All right, so first thing, you'll always want to start from the top and work your way back so you're not working on the material that you've just installed, because you're gluing all of this down and it'll move if you're walking across it. So you want to work down the steps, because it's a lot easier than working up the steps and trying to stay off the material. And so the thing about steps is that none of them are cut perfect. So don't think that you can just come in and measure that top riser and then just cut it to size and then cut all the other ones and they're all going to fit. It just doesn't work like that. Okay. So you want to cut each entire step individually and finish off each step and just work your way down so that by the time you're at the bottom, you're completely done. You're not going back and installing after you've got everything cut. You cut, install, cut, install, cut, install. And so the thing about steps, let me show you here. This is a good one to work with. So when you're measuring, you can see here that I've got just over 36 inches at the back of the tread. From wall to wall is just about a 1/16 over 36. But if you measure here, you've got about 36 1/4. So there's 3/16 of an inch different from the back to the front. So if you just make one measurement, like if I just measured this and went and cut my step at 36 1/16, when I installed it, you'd see a 3/16 inch gap on one of these sides. Now, which side it is, you need to determine before you cut the step, and I'll show you how to do that. So you take a framer's square, pretty simple tool, about $10, Home Depot, Lowe's. Put it with the flat end against the riser and then butt it up to the wall. And you can see just a tiny gap here where it actually touches back here. So that wall is just a teensy weensy bit out of square. This one, however, can you see the...
Yeah, I can.
So this is the wall that's running at an angle, and so you have to adjust for that. And so...
Now, which side are you facing towards the next tread, the tongue or the groove?
Well, what I'll be doing is I'll be facing the groove, which is on vinyl plank. It's the, we don't have, let me grab a plank here. So when I install these, I'll install it with the groove up against the riser. Now, remember, I'll have installed the riser first, and I'll do that right here. But what I have to do is actually cut off this groove with a table saw. Cut off the bottom of this groove with a table saw so that it butts up against the riser and there's no gap. So that tongue is, the bottom of the groove is easier to cut off than that really, really teensy tongue. So that's just how I do it. So let's go ahead and cut this piece in. So we've got about 36 1/8 there. And test your piece, see if it fits in easily. If it's
going right over that bullnose.
Yep, going right over the bullnose.
A little bit proud, looks like.
A little bit, yep, and it's easier just to make it, you know, if you try and force a piece that's a little bit too big in, it just becomes a pain in the butt. But this one is gonna be okay. So, this is not the time to talk about our new caulking gun.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
All right.
That'll be in a short.
Yeah, this is an electronic caulking gun, so this one is pretty easy to work.
It saves the hand.
It
A
does.
lot less wrist pain.
All right, so you can see I've put glue at the very bottom and at the very top because that's the only two places that the riser is going to meet the substrate. Yeah, a little bit bigger than it should have been. All right, so make sure that's nice and tucked in at the bottom. It's pushed down all the way. All right. Now we're going to get the bullnose cut, which is at 36 and just over 1/8. Pretty good fit. All right. So these are different companies make these differently. So what I'm going to do is get a nice thick bead of the material right at the back of the where the bullnose meets the riser aspect of the molding.
Then the bonding material we're using, it's the liquid nails.
Yep, construction adhesive. You can use any kind of construction adhesive. We're using liquid nails. And then, yep. And then what I'm going to do is just, instead of fill that whole gap and just waste a ton of construction adhesive, I'm gonna put globules. That's the technical term for that. And just making sure that that globule that I leave is kind of a mound that is taller than the finished floor. You know, see how it sticks up above,
Yep.
higher. That way it'll just really grab well. Get my piece in there, kind of bump it forward. Make sure it's secure.
The nice thing about it, I mean, it's tight up against the wall. There's pressure held in a little bit.
Yep, there's a ton of pressure, so nothing's sliding around anywhere. And then I'm just gonna tape this instead of nailing it, because this stuff just doesn't nail well. With wood, you can nail it, but with this stuff, you wanna just make sure it's nice and tight up there.
You try to push that down as flat too, right on that edge there, so that way it's.
Yeah, what I'll normally do is just make sure that tape is like sealed all the way down. So
Would you ever consider like weighing things down with like a little brick or something?
yeah, I do that often if it's like a transition molding from carpet to the plank or, you know, from tile to plank, a lot of times I'll install it and then weigh it down overnight. With this, it's a little bit tough because it's steps and really dangerous to have a bunch of stuff stacked up if people are going to walk on it. But if you can weigh it down and not be in danger of a lawsuit from a customer or a family member, then by all means do it. And so there you go. Now you'll notice that there's little gaps. This is it's just not going to contour perfectly. And so those we'll take care of with a little bit of caulking. We'll run caulking, a really thin bead of caulking down the whole sides when the job is done and the glue has hardened up so it's not moving. And that'll make it just look like it's molded perfectly, like the wall is molded perfectly to the stairs, and each stair is molded perfectly all the way down. So so you got to cut this off before you can measure. All right, so now we're working from a nice clean edge. We're going 36 and just above an 8. Ooh, thank you.
Right, square.
All right, so now I got to cut this little lip off the bottom of this groove. There's my bubble splatting over everything. All 4 sides. I'm out.
That was fast.
Yep, trigger's on off. And make sure you install the side that you cut. Yes, up against the... Did I not finish that thought? All right, so here, let's see.
Your tapping block comes in.
It could, yeah, tapping block. Now, you might be concerned about that, but there's adhesive behind there, and so when that sets up, it won't be an issue. But maybe I will tap it just a little bit. Because it might go in a little bit more. Oh, it ain't going anywhere. That's it. All right.
You got maybe 1/16 of an inch is all on that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think that's everything. And then you just got one more.
Yep, and then we're going to cut this one. And so in this situation...
You got to figure out, because that's a rounded inner bullnose.
Yep, so in...
Right there, you kind of got to...
Yeah, so in this situation, the way the surface material, so if you cut this out all the way to the edge here, and then put your bullnose on, your glue would only be grabbing the surface, and you want it to grab the substrate. So I'm cutting mine, so I've got a 2 inches from the end of the bullnose to the laminate, and so I'm cutting mine at 1 3/4 inches. So there's about a 1/4 inch gap that I can use to squeeze the glue into so it grabs onto the substrate. Make sense?
So you're gluing a line on that outer piece, and then you'll squeeze the bullnose and glue that as well. You kind of got like 2 bits of...
Yep.
Right.
Yep, so we've got 36 1/8 by 1 3/4. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and install this piece now.
I got the door.
See all my careful planning, and I still squeeze some through there.
Well, at least it probably won't separate it, that one little section there.
That one little section will live
Hold
on.
up the entire house.
in infamy. Now this, what I'm doing right now, this is not a water rag or a dry rag. You never want to try and clean this stuff up with water or just with a dry rag. It won't work. So this has paint thinner on there. So just a little bit of paint thinner so that I can wipe up things as I spill. Once it dries, it ain't coming off. It's way too hard. This stuff is super duper glue. So that's the whole step process. Apart from doing the caulking, you've seen me do one whole circuit, and you just
we got the treads, we got the bullnose, and work our way down.
Yep, keep following all the way down, and now next I'll install my next riser, install the molding, install the next tread, and just rinse and repeat. That's how you do steps the professional way.